Hello all YouTubers, I'm the Weather Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning back into this live coverage of Hurricane Hanna for July 25th, 2020. Before I get on with today's video, however, it would really be nice if you guys did hit that subscribe button. I really cannot believe that I hit 800 subscribers already, so thank you guys so much. And we're on our way to 900 and eventually, even more exciting, the big 1,000 subscribers. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as ringing the bell notifications so you will not miss my next video. Also, please do watch the whole video because this does help my channel grow significantly. So please do watch the whole video and liking and sharing this video as well. Thank you. Now let's get on with today's video. So again, please stay tuned for the whole video because the weather content I'll be providing you in this video, you definitely do not want to miss. So let's get right into it here. We're going to be talking about Hurricane Hanna, obviously, for today. It is now making landfall, if not just a couple miles from landfall, from the coast of Texas, right between Corpus Christi and Brownsville, Texas, where Corpus Christi down through about Port Mansfield, we do have hurricane warnings in effect. This has just been upgraded to a 90-mile-per-hour Category 1 hurricane. It's moving at 8 miles an hour, but it's like it's just sitting there and it's not moving over land. Okay, the waters are very warm in this area. We'll be looking at live radar and everything in this video today. And you can just see where the extent of tropical storm force winds goes. It goes well inland in Texas. It doesn't just stay on the coast. Now, the hurricane force winds, they stay a little bit closer to the coast, but even as this gets a few miles inland, this could still be a hurricane. Now, once it moves towards the central part of extreme southern Texas, I think will be downgraded to a tropical storm, but nonetheless, still very dangerous conditions all the way through northern Mexico here. Okay, it's moving in a more west-southwesterly direction now, so it'll be moving more in this direction. And this is the 5 p.m. Eastern advisory, by the way, 4 p.m. Central Time advisory. But as you can see, as of now, it's staying just off the coast, getting ready, if not actually making landfall as we speak. So, looking at the hurricane force wind probabilities, the best chance of that is probably going to be right in this region I outlined in black here. The region I outlined in black, you're going to have about a 30 to 40% chance plus of seeing hurricane force winds. So that'll be the case right around Port Mansfield, Texas. That's one of the only more populated places I can find that's within this region. Maybe Corpus Christi have a slight chance, but I think maybe even down towards Brownsville, got about 5 to 10% chance of seeing hurricane force winds. We're going to be going over a storm surge in a little bit, but taking a look at the hurricane force winds, this is like the wind history. You can see where we've seen the hurricane force winds in that red and then the tropical storm force winds in that orange. You can see tropical storm force winds have already gone well inland. And the storm hasn't even made its way on shore yet, or it's about to. Okay, so you know the outer band's been pretty strong. And rainfall, okay, so keep in mind, this is valid 2 p.m. Eastern today. So basically, count the rainfall from we had a few hours ago. This is from 2 p.m. today through 8 p.m. East. So make sure, I just want to clarify that I'm talking about Eastern time here. So we're talking about 2 p.m. Eastern today through 8 p.m. Eastern on the 27th. We could be seeing 10 to 15 inches of rainfall now. That area of red has now been moved inland. So basically, Port Mansfield and Brownsville, all right, you're going to be right in that area of 10 to 15 inches of rain, and even upwards of a half a foot of rain for Corpus Christi. Okay, so still 10 to 15 inches of rain is very heavy rainfall. There's a very, very tiny speck of pink over northern Mexico. And if that happens to expand a little bit, that'll be about 15 to 20 inches of rain. And that does make sense because Mexico has a lot of mountains, and that can result in a lot more rain for Mexico. I don't even know if you guys can see the little pink speck. I could zoom in a lot if you guys want to, if you really don't believe me. But we'll see if it grows. But for now, there's a tiny little pink speck in northern Mexico. But other than that, well outside that, we could still be seeing widespread 6 to 10 and even 10 to 15 inches of rainfall for southern Texas here and the eastern coast of Texas. And that's also where we have, in fact, a very high threat. This is the highest level we can see for extreme flash flooding. Okay, and even outside of that, if you're in the red and the pink, so moderate to high here, we're talking about Corpus Christi, points south towards Port Mansfield, Brownsville, just south of Victoria, Texas. If you're in the red and the magenta, that means you have a very high chance of seeing extensive flash flooding here, and that's not good. Now, we do also have storm surge warnings. We'll be going to storm surge totals in a very short while, but so just at the Kingsville, Corpus Christi, all right, points north here. That's where you're going to be seeing the real storm surge because the storm will be making landfall. It's more to the south, like down towards, say, Brownsville. So it comes on shore like this, Okay, so let's say you got your low coming onshore like this, where you're gonna have the onshore flow coming in this direction. Okay, so south, because of the angle it's coming in, so south of where the storm makes landfall, there's not going to be that much surge at all. So if you go just south of Brownsville on the northern Mexico here, not going to be really much surge at all. But where a storm is making landfall up the Texas coast here, that's where you have those storm surge warnings in effect. Right in between Galveston and Brownsville, but not including Galveston or Brownsville. Basically from Kingsville, Corpus Christi, up through just south of Bay City, we do have storm surge warnings in effect. Means storm surge is going to be here shortly if it's not here already. So how about those storm surge totals? They have just now been upgraded. If you live Port Aransas or just north of Baffin Bay through Port Aransas, Corpus Christi Bay, you could be seeing 4 to 6 feet of storm surge. Why? Because obviously this was supposed to make landfall with sustained winds of about 75 to 80 miles an hour, and has just been upgraded to 90 mile an hour sustained winds, and wind gusts will be passing 100 miles per hour. I just want to put that out there. Wind gusts will definitely be passing 100 miles an hour at times if you happen to get in the strongest part of the eye wall here as it's coming onshore. But even, Port Mansfield, between Port Mansfield and the mouth of Rio Grande, still 1 to 3 feet of surge. Between Port Mansfield and Baffin Bay, we're talking about 2 to 4 feet of surge. Between Baffin Bay and Port Aransas, including Corpus Christi Bay, again, 4 to 6 feet of surge. And between about Port Aransas and Sargent, 2 to 4 feet of surge. Okay, that also includes Capano Bay, Aransas Bay, San Antonio Bay, and Matagorda Bay, also 2 to 4 feet of surge. And then between Sargent and up through High Island near Galveston, we're talking about 1 to 2 feet of surge, which still, imagine 12 to 24 inches of water coming up from the ocean. That's still not good news here. And we'll be taking a look at the tide cycles as well. So looking at Hurricane Hanna here, we've got 3 key messages. One, from the National Hurricane Center, our first key message is that life-threatening storm surge is going to be continuing, because it's already started, from the Texas coast, from Brownsville, and especially Port Mansfield, which is just north of Brownsville, Port Mansfield up through Sargent, where a storm surge warning is in effect. Obviously, you should always follow the advice of your local officials there. Hurricane conditions are going to be continuing within a hurricane-warned area on the Texas coast through this evening. Okay, strong winds, 90 to 100, even wind gusts could pass 100 miles per hour. We do have some tropical storm and hurricane warnings in effect, depending on exactly where you are, how close to the coast you are in south central Texas or South Texas. And Hanna is expected to produce very heavy rainfall. That's the other thing too. Very heavy rainfall could exceed 12 inches of rain, because this isn't like Harvey where it's stalling around for several hours / days. Actually, it's not going to be stalling for days by any means. However, this is moving at only a few miles per hour. If you looked at Hanna this morning, it looked very close to the Texas coast. Like, you would have thought it would be making landfall early this morning. Well, if you weren't looking at the forecast, because obviously here, like, we knew that it was going to be making landfall this afternoon, but you saw this morning, like, it was already approaching the Texas coast, and you thought it was going to make landfall this morning. Like, okay, this storm is early. But no, once it got to the Texas coast, it's been slowing down even more. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually moving slower than 8 miles an hour. The way I look at it on the satellite, looks like it's moving more like 5 miles per hour, and that's why the rainfall threat is so high. Like I said, nowhere near Imelda from 2001 or Harvey from 2017 by any means, or Florence, nowhere near that either, but still. 10 to 15 inches of rain is very dangerous. It can sadly take lives. It can put people in the hospital, and especially with the wiring, you definitely have to watch the electrical wiring, because that could pose a dangerous threat, especially when the flood is just about over and the water is just sitting there. So again, Hanna, very heavy rainfall from Hanna, southern Texas to northeastern Mexico, and life-threatening flash flooding, and even don't forget river flooding either, as well as coastal flooding. So we got all 3 types of flooding here. Now, since the storm is already approaching onshore, I really don't know why I'm showing this, but you can see that the wind shear will be starting to go up, which is good news, but wind shear going up does not mean that the rainfall threats will go down. This means that the storm could be torn apart a little bit as it's making landfall. Sure, that's good news. That happens when any tropical system makes landfall. All right, but we got 29 degrees sea surface temperature, so that's why this has really been strengthening here. The wind shear hasn't been too bad. The storm, again, moving at about 8-9 miles an hour, if that. I honestly think it's less, but the heat content is at its highest now. Once it makes landfall, obviously it's going to start to drop off a lot. So let's take a look at the ocean water, so temperature anomalies, and see why this has been strengthening. And you can see we still got water temperatures up to 1 degree Celsius above average. And obviously, since the Gulf is always warm anyway, that doesn't help. 30 degrees Celsius water temperatures, which is well into the upper 80s. So very, very warm waters here. Again, sustained winds, 90 miles an hour right now. We're talking about wind gust 100 to 105 plus miles per hour, aka 90 knots. Pressure has really dropped, 973. We thought this was going to come on shore, maybe 980, upper 980s, maybe low 990s pressure. Because as you know, the lower the minimum central pressure is, the stronger the winds are. So the central pressure really dropped. The storm grew even more, 140 nautical miles radius of circulation. Now, I said I'll be looking at the tide tables for you guys. And looking at them here, I chose 3 locations here, courtesy of tidesforfishing.com. I chose the northernmost location that'll be affected by this, which is Galveston. I chose a location right in the middle, which I believe it was, yes, Corpus Christi. So we did Galveston Bay, then the center part, Corpus Christi, and then the southernmost point that'll be affected by this, which is Brownsville. So starting with the Galveston Bay entrance here in South Jetty, all right, I want you guys to look at this because we were low tide earlier today, which is good news when the rainfall started hitting, but the brunt of the effects are going to be continuing through 8:20 tonight, which is when our next high tide cycle is. So if you live in the Galveston Bay entrance, South Jetty, if you live near the Galveston Bay, definitely want to watch out because 8 o'clock tonight, and just maybe like an hour and a half, a couple hours, not even, okay, we're going to be starting to see a lot more rising water. Things are going to get a lot worse because that eye wall is still going to be coming ashore. The worst of the surge here is going to start ramping up when a high tide is in effect. Now, the good news is that we'll have a decent low tide, okay, by 1:30 in the morning, but 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, if we can still see a lot of rain bands tomorrow morning. They'll be lingering, and we'll have another high tide tomorrow morning. But the high tide at tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for Galveston Bay will be worse than the one at 8:20 tonight. But with the hurricane that we have, I don't really think the exact tide number really matters. As long as it's a high tide and we have the worst day conditions coming in, okay, you definitely need to be worried about this. Definitely need to be concerned, not something just to brush off. Now, this is the Bob Hall Pier, aka Corpus Christi. Okay, so your similar high tide, it looks like your high tide for you guys will be in 7:14, which is just about a half hour away, 45 minutes away, depending on exactly when you're watching this. For you guys, it might be almost like right now. And the height, about 1 foot. So if you live in Corpus Christi, 7:15, that's when your high tide is going to be. And again, you're already starting to see the worst of the effects. So the worst of the storm will probably be coming through the next couple hours. Let's take a look here at the southernmost location that'll be affected by this, which is Brownsville. And you'll see, so for you guys, when you go farther south, okay, I've kind of noticed that the tide got a little later. So it looks like for you guys, your high tide will be at 10 o'clock tonight. So you guys got a couple more hours more. So you guys got about another 3 hours or so before the worst of it will start hitting for you. Then you'll have your next high tide at about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. That'll be your next high tide. But that next high tide tomorrow morning will be not as good, not as significant as this one. But tonight it looks like, because 12.7 feet, that is like the worst high tide I can see on this map. Like I see 11.7, I see 12.7 from yesterday, but I mean, tonight is going to be the worst high tide you've seen potentially in a couple weeks. So the high tide is already going to be high in Brownsville by itself. When you got a hurricane coming in, that only makes it a lot worse. So be careful, very careful in Brownsville as well. Now, let's take a look at that satellite imagery because it looks pretty scary out there, okay? So I'm going to try to speed up a little bit, and I might get rid of the clocking motion. There we go. All right, so here, and we're starting to see the eye come back from Hanna, and you can see it's just now coming on shore here. All right, you got your very heavy rainfall bands, and that's going to be twirling around the storm. And because it heads southwest, these bands will start. So where you see the eye now, right? That's where your heavy bands are going to be in the next couple hours, because as the storm pulls its way to the south and west, so will all this action over here. So where the eye is right now, that's where the heavy rain bands will be in, say, a couple hours, when the worst of the high tide might be for some people. All right, and you can see this extends well down. We got some great outflow boundaries with this. So when you're going down to, say, northeastern Mexico, we still have a lot of, look at all that convection flaring up in northeastern Mexico. Okay, this thing has great outflow boundaries. It's a very healthy looking Category 1 hurricane. The eye is showing up again just at landfall, and this eye is now making landfall right there, okay, in south central Texas. All right, so let's take a look at some of that aircraft reconnaissance. I believe they did finish up. And what did they pick up? Well, they picked up some winds of about 90 miles an hour or so right on the northeast side right here. like I said, if you watch my last coverage video, when I say 83 to 96 knots that they pick up, that might be a little bit overboard because what the hurricane hunters pick up is a peak 10-second average flight level wind speed. So when they pick up winds of 83 to 96 knots, to me that means 83 to 96 miles an hour. And that's a little conversion, what method that I do in my head, and it usually helps. And that's how, again, I usually predict what's in the next National Hurricane Center update, and it's usually correct. So again, if you guys want to try that method, you can. So if they pick up 83 to 96 knots of wind like they were here, that to me tells me, okay, the next update we're probably going to see winds of 83 to 96 miles per hour, not knots. Because 83 to 96 knots will be almost a Category 2 hurricane. So, and it was right. Okay, so we have 90-mile-an-hour winds now with this. The low center seems to be right about, it might be a little bit further west by now because they took this at about an hour ago, so it might be right here. But pressure, again, 974, 973 millibars, so some very low pressure here. Now, before I get into the models, I did want to take a look at one radar. Hopefully, before the video ends, I'll give you guys another look at the radar as well. But I want to take our look at the radar here along with the satellite that I've already provided you guys. You can see how huge this eye is. Okay, and it's coming on shore now. I mean, it's just almost a nearly perfect eye. It's coming on shore now. It's crossing over the Corpus Christi Bay here, just between Corpus Christi and Brownsville, right over Port Mansfield. You can see here's your western eye wall, which is pretty bad, but what's even worse is this eastern eye wall right here. This is even worse, just to your southeast side. Okay, and then you got all your tornadic activity on these bands. The bands is where you really get most of your tornadic activity with a tropical cyclone / hurricane. Okay, and let's take a look at some of these storm total precipitation. How much rain have we really had so far in some of these places? I'm giving us a little refresher here. You can see that near Port Mansfield, we've already had 3 to 4, even close to 5 inches of rain so far. But look at one rainfall band, what happened off the coast. Thank God this was off the coast. 15 plus inches of rainfall we've had already from that one band off the coast. And you can see what's sitting offshore here. We've had 10 inches plus rain offshore. So if that same rain band will make its way on the coast of Texas like it's supposed to, like I said, South Texas will be in a lot of trouble. Corpus Christi, Alice, Laredo, McAllen, Brownsville, Victoria, if I didn't say that already, Port Mansfield. Okay, all places that could be in very big trouble because these rain bands could produce several inches of rainfall. All right, so let's take a look now. Get another look at the radar, except this is from the Corpus Christi radar site, I think. I think the last one was a little bit farther south towards Brownsville. This one encapsulates a little bit more of a northern view, so you can kind of see what's looking like to the north. And you can see we got these bands. You got these storm surge. You got the storm surge. You got the rainfall bands pushing onshore. Thank goodness this is pretty much missing Houston. A lot of it is, well, that's only because the radar cuts off here. But even if I went up towards Houston, they're not getting much rain, which is good news. I think the worst of it is done for you because upon landfall, it's moving more of a west-southwest direction. So when it was at its northernmost point, that's probably when Houston and New Orleans got affected. And they still got a couple inches of rainfall out of this, even if the storm didn't make complete landfall there. But this eye, I mean, the westernmost point, let's take a look at how big this eye is, okay? The westernmost point, the westernmost edge of that eye, of the storm system, is about to hit U.S. Route 77, which is pretty far inland in Texas. While the easternmost side of that eye hasn't even come on shore of Texas yet. But in general, the storm has made landfall because the center of the eye itself is now centered right here. So the storm itself is now on shore, but it's amazing how the western side of the eye is on US 77 and the easternmost part of the eye isn't even fully on shore yet, which is amazing how big this storm is. And looking at our storm total precipitation for looking a little bit farther north here, you see that even some northern spots, some patchy areas of orange and red, and that indicates about 3 to 5 inches of rain in some patches already. But in general, as a whole, widespread, we've seen about 1 to 3 inches of rainfall so far, 1 to 2 inches. But don't worry, more is definitely coming. So let's take a look at the modeling real quick. And so here is, right there, that is Hurricane Hanna, seen just to our south there. And as you can see, as I play out in time, you can see it just moves through. Okay, and we still got some lingering rainfall, say 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, although most of it will be over in Mexico now and near the Rio Grande. But we could have another, look at this, look what the NAM model does. Watch this band right here. Let me advance it 3 more hours. This is 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Look at this. We have another very intense, this could be a severe thunderstorm band. This could be a hurricane band. Then another 3 hours later towards 8 p.m. moves up this way. So we could have another band of rainfall that could produce Maybe some surge if the wind happens to kick up, produce a lot more rain and wind damage. So the storm could rebound. It could come back. Okay, not the storm itself, but maybe some outer rain bands could come back north. You can see, look, another one it just did it again right here. Another one. This is Monday at 5 p.m. Okay, and another rain band makes its way north. So we'll be watching this very closely because the storm effects could last for hours, if not nearly days. Now, I don't believe that the worst of the storm is not going to last for days like Imelda or Harvey here. All right, but while I don't think that, okay, I still do believe, all right, that we could still have very dangerous effects. And by the way, early in the video, if I said Imelda was 2001, I'm sorry. If I said Imelda was 2001, I mistake myself. It was Allison was 2001, and Imelda was more recently. But when I was referring to Imelda, it wasn't 2001, but Allison was. That's what I meant to talk about. Tropical Storm Allison from 2001. But all these examples here, Tropical Storm Allison, Imelda, Tropical Storm Imelda here, and even Hurricane Harvey, as well now as Hurricane Hanna. Okay, originally this was supposed to be, like when I was looking at this at first, it was in the Central Gulf. It was going to be maybe a moderate to maybe a stronger and tropical storm. Still producing some big impacts, but now that this is on the higher end of a Category 1 now. Nearly Category 2, although this is not going to be a Category 2 100% because the eye is already coming on shore. Maybe the sustained winds might bump up to 95 at best, but I think 90 will be the strongest it gets. But still, wind gusts could be passing 100 miles an hour. As you can see here, 70 knot winds. Okay, and this is from the latest 18Z run of the NAM model. Okay, you can see how this comes on shore. We still got winds of well over 70, 75 knots. But watch what happens as this moves in through, say, Mexico. Already moving through the mountains of Mexico, and we still have a tropical storm on our hands with very low pressure of 992 millibars. So definitely a tropical storm as it's head towards Mexico. As you can see by those red colors, we still have a tropical storm. Then it finally starts to taper down a little bit. But again, the mountains can also enhance the wind speed. Even though the mountains tear the storm apart itself, the mountains will help increase that wind because of the slope of the mountains here. And finally, kind of taking a look at the rainfall with the NAM model. You can see 20 inches. I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep doing it. I keep clicking by accident. But we could see 10 to 20 inches of rainfall. So a very serious flood threat there for South Central Texas. But even north of there, Corpus Christi 3 to 5, Galveston maybe even 2 to 4 in some spotty locations. Maybe for South Texas, Louisiana border, maybe even a few inches for you guys as well. So before I go, I'm going to take one last look at the radar here for you guys. I'm going to use the My Radar app that I do use sometimes. Sorry, that's an advertisement. So let's load up the My Radar app. I kind of wanted to take it off and then load it again so I could get a little refresh radar loop. And you can see, I mean, there's just so many warnings that we have. Matter of fact, I should probably take off the warnings for a sec so you guys can just see the radar of the storm better. As you can see, just to zoom up to this thing real close, it is just, I mean, literally, the eye is right over Padre Island right now. If you were right in downtown Padre Island, like Padre Island National Seashore, you would look up at the sky. The air is so calm. It is the most beautiful sky you've ever seen. Literally, it's literally like a ring. It's like, it almost looks like a wedding ring, and around it, it's all clouds and thunderstorms. But right over Padre Island right now, I'm not kidding. There's Padre Island right there, the center downtown. If you want to call it Padre Island. The eye is right over you right now. I literally wish I could be in Padre Island just to see that, just to look up and see like how calm it is inside the eye. But watch out, because 30 minutes to an hour, things are gonna get pretty hectic for you guys. All right, that worst part of that eye wall is gonna come in, and here's the worst part. You're gonna have the worst part, which is that eye wall come in, and then maybe another band behind that, which is a rain band. It could be like almost like a second eye wall trying to form. So Padre Island, you just went through the first eye wall, but I think this storm is definitely more eastern loaded than it is western loaded. You can see there's not much on the left side of your screen versus the right side, right? So Padre Island, I'd say you've been through about 33% of the storm. You still got a good 77.7% to go through, because the storm is such eastern loaded that even though you went through the eye wall on the west side of the storm and some other rain bands from earlier today, you're going to have to deal with a lot more on the eastern side. So that is just so amazing just to be right over Padre Island. This is where, so when this storm goes down in history books, you can say that this made landfall right over Padre Island, because I'm not lying to you. That is Padre Island right there. So that is honestly truly amazing. I actually do want to see if I can get a weather cam for you guys real quick so you can kind of see like the weather camera from Padre Island. And I couldn't really find one from the National Seashore. Well, I did, but you can see that the sky is starting to clear up here. You got a tractor trailer going down the road. The sky is really clearing up here, just near that eye here. All right, so you can see how it's clearing up. The road's obviously still wet, but you can see how the sky's starting to clear up a little bit and how around it, like the right side of the screen, we got some clouds. But this is the best I can find here because I had to go into traffic cams because if I go into weather cams, there was like no available weather cams. It's all traffic cameras I can find. But you can see how the sky's clearing up here. But still, just it'd be amazing to be right in Padre Island, Texas right now. That would be really amazing. So, to any of my viewers, if you guys are in Padre Island, Texas, take a look in the sky because you're gonna see some amazing stuff. So, but just be prepared. Definitely want to make sure you are prepared because that other 77% of the storm will have to come through first or afterwards. So, thank you guys for watching today's coverage video. Please do check out my other upload from today. Depending on when you guys are watching this, it may not be out yet, but it will be out very shortly if it's not yet already. Will be my 16th hurricane discussion because sadly my 15th one was a famous accidentally muted video. So hopefully this one will go a lot better. So please check out my 16th hurricane discussion after this video. So thank you guys for watching today. I am the Weather Dude signing off. Till next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.